So the next topic is all about the different kind of paint defects. So these are the example pictures of the different defects. So let us now proceed to the first one, which is the excessive or premature chalking. Chalking is actually the paint pigment that is released by the paint binders that have been broken down by exposure to the weather. So the causes of this defect are the improper formulation or paint application, cheaper quality paint was used, and paint was over-thinned before it was applied. Then the possible prevention or cure is to remove chalking by power washing. So chalking must be removed before repainting. It needs to be scrubbed or power washed with a cleaning solution and rinsed with a clean water. So these pictures are actually taken here in our house. The wall doesn't feel rough, but it felt dusty. The next one is the sagging and running. This paint failure is easily identified because of the downward movement of the paint, like this one in the picture. The paint droops downward after being applied on the surface. So the causes are too heavy and careless application of a thin consistency paint. Paint was thinned too much at the time of application. Paint was applied in poor environmental condition, and so on. So the possible prevention is by maintaining proper proportions of pigment and linseed oil as to formulation, and careful brushing of properly thinned paint as to application, and do not overload the paintbrush. The third one is the storm spatting. So I think this one usually occurs on freshly painted exterior surfaces when rain hits the surface, and it often occurs within an hour of the paint being applied. So the causes are insufficient drying of freshly applied coating and then the rain. It is said that rain sometimes absorbs nitrate and peroxides formed by electric discharges, and once it penetrates the paint film, it will change the refractive index of the coating. So for the cure, rubbing spots with alcohol or with clean water. The next one is the washing. So water in the form of liquid and humidity performs the most destruction when it soaks in between the paint layer and the exterior wall. As daily temperature change between cold and warm, the water expands and contracts, slowly separating the paint from the surface. So the causes are water-soluble compounds and pigments of poor paints, or soluble compounds which develop by chemical reactions in the paint are dissolved during rainstorm. So the possible cure is by repairing water seepage. The next one is the stain. So when metal discolor paint, moisture is usually the culprit. The metal stains are dissolved and leached by water. The water then moves to the painted surface, evaporates, and leaves the stains behind. So the cause of this defect is the metal stains, and the cure is the coating of metals. Um, it should be painted with metallic zinc, dust and spar varnish, or it can be prevented by applying an alkali-resisting primer as a sealer. So checking is characterized by minute cracks on the surface of elastic film, like this one. So the causes are improper application or formulation of undercoats, then the finished film is applied over a body coat, then an equal tension occur in drying. So the cure are by repainting and allowance of sufficient drying time between coats and formulation of the body coat. The next one is the alligatoring. So alligatoring is a pattern cracking similar to the scales of an alligator. It occurs when the hard coat of paint is applied over the soft coat or existing coat of the paint. So the cure is by the removal of the film and repainting, and it also requires a high quality oil-based primer to prevent this paint defect. Crack, cracks and scaling. So cracking is a wear characteristic of a hard drying paint, while scaling comes from the water pressure where moisture seeps through the crack. to the original surface. So the cause is by the splitting of dry paint film from one or more coats of paint, while the possible cure is through the vigorous brushing and recoating with less brittle film. Blistering and peeling. So swelling is caused by the formation of an air bubble under the paint film due to the presence of moisture or oil. If it is caused by moisture, it is called peeling. If due to oil and grease, then it is blistering. So the cause is the imperfect seasoning of timber and usage of excess oil in final coat, while the possible cure is the use of porous paint, removal of paint and repainting, and waterproofing. Spot fading. Spot fading is the result of insufficient coat or a priming coat improperly formulated to penetrate and seal surface pores. So the cause is the uneven soil absorption and the cure is repainting and also practicing of proper painting techniques. The last one is the wrinkling. It is marked by a tough and ladder-like texture. It occurs when a thick layer of paint is to be coated on the surface. In this case, the paint film shrinks and develops crawls on the surface. So the cause is when paint is put on too thickly and not well brushed out, while the cure are sanding and repainting if texture is light, and allowing undercoat to dry completely prior to the application of the final coat. So that would be all for the paint defects. Thank you.